Hello, I'm CraftyAndy. And before I begin today's subject, which is about media critique involving video games, movies, and the like, as a boy growing up, I used to read a lot of gaming magazines. I mean, when you don't have a lot of video games to play, you tend to read about gaming a lot more than you actually play them. So I had a lot of GamePro and Computer Gaming World magazines. Thing is, as much as I like to read about the new and interesting video games that are out there that are good, the ones that drew my attention the most are, of course, the reviews of bad video games. Like this one, for instance, from Computer Gaming World, June 1998, Star Trek Pinball to Boldly Blow by Jeff Green. Star Trek Pinball. Just the thought of it gets your Vulcan blood boiling, doesn't it? Yeah, me neither. But Interplay, apparently on a mission, I hope it's not a 5-year one, to boldly milk a franchise as it's never been milked before. Maybe they're figuring that all 5 people who thought their Waterworld game was a good idea will buy this one too. Appeal. People who speak fluent Klingon. Pros. One of the bumpers says, "Aye, Captain," in Scotty's voice when you hit it. Cons, uninspired tables, unimplemented multiplayer support, shameless milking of a franchise, 1.5 stars. On top of Mystery Science Theater 3000 for riffing on movies, we would have X-Play, which of course the most entertaining reviews that Adam Sessler and Morgan Webb would do would be involving the bad video games, because that's where all the most entertaining jokes would come from, as well as hilarious bugs and other bad gameplay.
I have to warn you. This part may make your eyes bleed. I'm not sure what I like better. The fact that the water behaves like a solid sheet of fabric, or the way it occasionally clips through the nearby ground.
There's one thing though. When it came to magazines, TV, early days of the internet, things were strictly professional. You wouldn't swear, you wouldn't be too crude with your jokes, you wouldn't exaggerate how terrible something was for entertainment value. Things were pretty reined in and dry until Angry Video Game Nerd and Nostalgia Critic came along. Now here were a couple of guys talking the way we would with our friends, cursing up a storm, screaming at the fucking video game for being unfair.
Look at this pandemonium. There's a fucking ceiling waiting to come down and kill me. There's a guy throwing an oil drum. If I try to get out of the way, I get hit by these rotating blades and shit. I take the guy down and then I try to set off the ceiling trap and I'm dead.
Shut up! Fuck you, motherfucker!
Laying into the more ridiculous aspects of certain movies that disappointed us growing up.
That could have gone better.
Mr. Critic, is that what happens when Pepe Le Pew makes whoopee with Ronald McDonald?
Yes, it is.
Now, yes, they were exaggerated performances, but there was a sincerity to their sentiment when it came to the quality of the media that they were reviewing. They didn't take themselves too seriously. Unlike today, where a bad game is somehow a call to action for a lot of people to find out where the developers live and directly involve themselves in their lives and harass them, send them threats, and act like the fucking fandom police. When did this shit get so fucking serious?
The saying goes, take your business seriously and yourself less so. I am CraftyAndy and these are my thoughts. I've noticed, along with many other people, that media critique in terms of entertainment media, movies, video games, books, I imagine even board games at this point, it's all been taken way too seriously up until the point where it's just sucked all the joy and fun out of the scene entirely. This shit right here, Critical Drinkers The Boys Season 4 review, represents perfectly in quick fashion why I fucking hate discussions around these things so much now. Now, yes, it's a bit of an exaggeration, but I get fed this kind of bullshit all the time. And there are plenty of good commentators out there, like Your Movie Sucks, Angry Nerd, Nostalgia Critic, the rest. I particularly like this one I saw recently about my favorite anime of all time, Attack on Titan, called Who Was Right About Attack on Titan? By A Man of Many Cats. It's around the discourse of whether Attack on Titan is pro-fascist or not. It's not. Well, I guess it's up to the viewer to determine that, But my god, does a show need to stop and say explicitly what you should think of the main character and their actions in order for them to be bad or good? Really, the point I want to focus on here in regards to this video is that Cats makes it clear that if you enjoy the show, it doesn't make you a bad person, or you're pro-fascist, or that media you consume must be put through the purity filter as if you're some weak-minded individual that can be influenced in a bad way. In other words, neither he nor anyone I put on screen go out of their way to moralize whether he should enjoy or not enjoy a piece of media, unlike the many more numerous and in some cases more financially successful supposed critics out there. Thing is about these people, at least for certain, AVGN and Nostalgia Critic, they never take themselves too seriously. Even with the vulgarity of Paul's Ego and TJ Kirk on Onion Nuggets, who get very passionate in regards to the things they love or hate in regards to entertainment, none of it's personal or put through the lens of being part of some bullshit made-up culture war. For the more in-depth analysis of something like you'd find from Pop Culture Detective, specifically a great piece on observing the normalization of sexual assault happening to men as something to be laughed at.
Wait a minute. Was that a rape joke?
I'm gonna slather you up in Navi and jelly. Go to town.
Yep, certainly was.
This one here's our booty.
Maybe it's just an anomaly.
This doesn't end with us riding into the sunset. It ends with me dying of cancer and you winning the Icebox Award for softest mouth.
Hold up. That's another rape joke.
It's a phenomenon that is observed, questioned, and made for us to reflect on personally. It doesn't get spun down as some moral crisis that is degenerating our civilization to the point of collapse. Which leads me to what seems to be the most popular pseudo-intellectual media hounds out there. Geeks and gamers, look at this fucking normie freak with that plain hoodie and hat. Let's hear what you have to say about Last Jedi again.
I love The Last Jedi, and I think it did a damn good job for being what it needed to be for Star Wars.
Funny how that changes on a whim over the reaction of your audience. Are you just some NPC that reacts to dialogue inputs from internet strangers?
When was the last Jedi video you made?
Yesterday. Yesterday, literally yesterday. Welcome to every video we make. We use one little thing and then we build the narrative out of it. Don't act like that's not what we do.
I don't build a narrative. I give my opinion.
Fucking. You are hard. We do. Shit. You've made the same fucking video on the same topic at least 7 times a week, Ryan. And you're gonna act like we don't do that.
I talk about I talk about
says one fucking thing and we make a whole video out of it. That's what we do.
Recently, this game came out that we pre-ordered, by the way, Black Myth Wukong. And apparently I need to turn in my leftist card back into George Soros because there is a call to boycott this game. Just more evidence Twitter is some alternate reality game. A bunch of chuds were stroking themselves over this gay, furry digital toy based on Chinese folklore, thinking this was some kind of own. What was the evidence when I asked for it? A 3 out of 5 star review that mentioned a con being lack of diversity and inclusion. Whatever the fuck that means in this context, considering it's a game full of anthro-animals and demons. So out of curiosity, I'll actually read the fucking review. Here is the concerning excerpt. As far as chapters 1 and 2, while characters are clearly fictitious and fantastical creatures, there are no female or feminine NPCs, enemies, or bosses present. The only exception, if you can call it female, is a boss named Mother of Stones in chapter 2, which is nothing more than a still glowing rock with no abilities, being guarded by other enemies. Okay, is that true? Did she say anything wrong here? The lack of diversity and inclusivity resonates with the misogynistic comments reported to have been made by developers, which express disdain for women playing their games. Although Black Myth Wukong does have truly enjoyable moments, the underlying feeling that women weren't welcome in this world felt present throughout my gameplay experience. Is there anything I have to refute? I mean, this is their personal experience. I want someone to explain to me how this translates into a boycott of the game and that I shouldn't play it and that you're bad for playing it. How does this translate into that? It's worth noting the game is based on the novel Journey to the West, which does consist of a few important female characters. To not include any women or to only include a few in an adaptation meant for a modern audience is quite disconcerting. While this doesn't take away from the exhilarating and fun of boss fights themselves, women fans of Souls-like games may have a different perspective. Wow, it's almost like being a woman and living in the planet Earth gives you a different perspective on life, and you might have a different experience to life as opposed to being born with a penis and identifying as male. Wow, fascinating. Especially given that, according to reports, the developer also suggested that women aren't capable of enjoying or being skilled at these types of games. That's a real call for a boycott if I ever heard one. This in turn led me to dive deeper to the linked IGN article regarding some of the environments female staff had to deal with. I don't give a shit about crude comments like this one here. The snake spirit is different from what I imagined, but if I cover the bottom half with my hand, it's still possible to jerk off. Cause I say crude shit all the time. Probably within this commentary too. That aside, when it comes to the working and growing up experience, I wasn't born with a vagina and assigned female at birth, so I don't know what it's like. Though there is this thing I have called empathy, and there are some pretty fucked up stories when it comes to working in these companies as a woman and being a female gamer in general.
And what I found particularly curious was, even though the entrance, the hallway to get past her, to get to our department was in this direction, and her boss's office was here, it was kind of like the end, it was like the dead end, was the big head of the studio's office. Her desk was oriented towards his office, which is kind of bizarre because the door was behind her. So anybody walking in to meet the boss would be greeted by the secretary's back, which is, she's usually there to greet people when they walk in and set appointments and stuff like that. So why the hell was she faced back? I always found it a little bit curious. She started to open up to me about how uncomfortable she was about the big boss, her direct superior. Because one of the things was, number one, the reason he oriented her desk towards him is because he had a glass wall. I couldn't see it from my vantage point. I could see it once I entered the office, once I went around and checked it out. But he oriented her desk towards her, and there was no back to the desk, so he could see straight under her desk. And she said every single time I tried to cross my legs, because your legs go numb if you keep them crossed in a particular position, especially when you're doing it for 8 hours a day, his eyes would immediately glance over. He was waiting for an opportunity to be able to check it out. Not only that, he also dictated what she wore. He said, it's a gaming studio, we want to look a little bit more young and hip and stuff like that, so you don't want to go with the long skirts and slacks. Some nice skirt would be really nice, and dress flatteringly, basically. I don't know how we worded it. I barely ever spoke to the guy, but what gives somebody a right to dictate a person's attire? Furthermore, very obviously dictating a more revealing, more upskirt type of attire, right? And that's exactly what he was doing. Not only that, but she was also oriented, so anybody who worked in a management position, all the art directors had offices around that same place and could also get a nice view underneath her desk as well. It used to make her feel terribly uncomfortable. And I said, well, have you ever spoken to him about it? Do you ever bring it up? She goes, yeah, dozens of times. I said, what does he have to say? He goes, no, it's better that way. She said, well, I don't feel comfortable with people looking underneath my desk and staring at my skirt. And he go, yeah, no, but we prefer to have it in this direction. Even though it was completely nonsensical to have it in that position in the first place.
Overall, there's no attempt to moralize whether or not you are somehow a bad person for engaging in this pastime regarding this specific digital toy, but you're not allowed to share your thoughts and experiences related to your personhood if it's female or queer related. So all this person did really was just screenshot the final analysis and act like a victim on Twitter instead. And then say, look at how these leftists attack me by pointing out inconsistencies and contradictions to my narrative I want to spin. No one is stopping you from playing with your little digital toy about gay furries smacking each other around with their rods. Leftist concerns, at least when it comes to me, tend to be related to quality of life involving things like healthcare, fair wages, equal opportunities to economically elevate oneself in society. Not so much what video games you're slapping your furry and denial dick to, dipshit, or the Axeman using the word retard to describe retarded individuals like Andy Pants Gaming.
Are you retarded, Andy? You're not retarded. There's no way you can make this possible connection through any logical means and actually believe it.
Dude, your friends that go to the Pride Parade are gonna hate that you said retard right now. They're gonna hate.
I don't give a shit.
Ah, yes. I am on a quest to dismantle the capitalist system that rules us all. But first, we got to kill the Act Man because he said the word retard. I got Bammy and Whammy, and we're gonna get spammy on that Act Man asshole. Are you ready, kids? Let's go!
Another hysterical point is the number of people celebrating this game, because when it came to allowing streamers to play it, some of the stipulations included not mentioning feminism, which says a lot about the director of this game, about a furry monkey beating other furry creatures with his rod. Why would feminism being mentioned be a concern of his, considering nothing is promoting anyone to comment on feminism in the game itself? Almost like there is a exclusive way women developers, artists, and actors might be treated in their studio than the men are generally in their society. When you preemptively put in a stipulation against a subject matter that is generally unrelated to your product, it just creates curiosity, as in, what are you afraid of? Are you trying to tell us something about yourself that someone might find unsavory? Makes you think. Back to what really got me on putting this together though. The Critical Drinker's non-review of The Boys Season 4. When it comes to this review, he doesn't even watch it to judge for himself. He just scans some of the chud flakes triggered in the Rotten Tomatoes review section, and then panders to their sentiment.
The show seems to have sacrificed writing quality and smart characterization in favor of simplistic shock value and cheap political point scoring.
Apparently, it took 4 seasons and a spin-off to realize it's making fun of people like them. The ones who think life is like a choose-your-own-adventure book, where the world starts and ends from their bed to the entrance of their apartment. Who don't think for themselves, so they seek out an opinion from online talking heads, because reading books or listening to audio versions of books about history and other life experiences is just too hard, compared to pressing a button that makes the gun go pew-pew. No longer are we talking about the artistry about movies and shows, reflecting on the acting, effects, or feelings while watching the story unfold. No, instead, everything has to be reduced down to how woke things are. We gotta talk about gay people or some other useless shit existing in stories as if they don't exist in real life. And these people almost never recommend any alternatives. I guess in their feeble minds, the alternatives aren't the slew of independent films that struggle to find funding. It's shit like Lady Ballers, right? Which is so bad these people can't even fucking pretend to like it. 504 movies in Canada and the United States came out in 2023. Going by the 80% of everything is crap rule, that would leave you with around 100 movies to choose from. It's not fucking possible for you to not find something that tickles your taint from now or anything before. It was a sad fucking display seeing Shadiversity, a couple of guys defending the acts of hate watching as if it's needed, as if it's some special service they are doing for mankind, like they're on the level of Doctors Without Borders.
And the concern that people have who hate these shows, right, is that is giving them support. A hate watch is just as valuable as a fan watch, and it's helping prop up terrible shows. If you really want them to die, ignore it. And look, I do think that's true. That's what has spelled the true death of this subversive, woke co-opting of the stories we love, apathy. Apathy has spelled the death for...
Who the fuck cares? Who the fuck cares? Them no like.
It's fun to watch a shit tier movie, or better yet, a high budgeted disaster like Borderlands, for example, and go over the weird decisions behind making it, from the casting, writing, and effects. What sucks all the fun out of that is a crowd of people who take it way too seriously, like the movie just fucked their ass with a cactus, and insist on spinning it in relation to diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts. As if the inclusion of different types of people affect the movie quality. By that logic, Blade Runner 2049 and the 2020's Dune are the worst movies ever fucking made. No matter how hard you try, morons, this shit isn't that important. And the desired outcomes, whatever messaging is there, will not lead to the end of civilization, or revolution for that matter. You want to talk about undesirables invading spaces? Well, we actually have people infiltrating government. You know, the people that decide laws and policies, everyday people that have to abide by through things like the Heritage Foundation, the family, and the Institute and Basic Life Principles, which all have their own little documentaries at this point, like Shiny Happy People, revealing an active motive of these cults to have as many kids as possible, brainwash them with superstitious nonsense like Garwood, and then encourage active political focused ambitions to enact policies like a federal ban on abortion, trans healthcare, and reversing equal marriage rights altogether. These are also the same people that don't like excessive sex or violence in their media either, let alone black people that don't talk like Uncle Ruckus or Aunt Jemima, or gays that don't spew rainbows and shit dildos. As far as agendas go, it's for corpo to make money. That's it. Can tokenism be used as a selling point? Yeah, like the live-action Little Mermaid. Let's put less effort into making something and then push the inclusion of a black actor as a goddamn gimmick. The agenda of writer, director, actor is to make entertainment they want to see, and is also sellable to audiences. That's it. Sometimes studios interferes with artistic vision, which almost always involves budget concerns and focus groups on how the story plays out, and when they can undermine a minority existing in a franchise, they'll do it. Remember the incredible shrinking Finn on the Star Wars posters? Or how Nimona nearly didn't get released after Disney bought Fox and shut down Blue Sky Studios? There isn't a gay person or black person or woman that can be allowed to exist in a movie or video game that won't immediately be labeled as forced. Hell, even flags get these chud flakes in a tism. Instead of doing some self-reflection on why a rainbow flag triggers them so much, they rather take the effort to mod it out of the game, which is a totally normal thing to do, fucking weirdo freakazoid winker worm fuckers. I remember for myself, this turn started years ago. I think with Ciri from the fantasy series The Witcher being played by a black actor. There were complaints all over the fucking place, and as I decided to have my own take on it, I asked myself, why does it matter either way? If the showrunners want to specifically find a black actor, okay, it's their fucking show. Explain how that affects quality, or affects you directly. Then there are other things to consider like gatekeeping, systemic bigotry, and glass ceilings. But that shit is too complicated to explain. That shit be hard like algebra. Might actually have to read a few books to understand it, which unlike a hardcore gamer, I can do. Here are some of the books I got through over the year. Transgender History, People's History of the United States, Atomic Habits, Extremely Online, Manufacturing Consent, The End of Policing, White Flight, Dying of Whiteness. I'm not some genius, I just read some shit that's sourced and has examples within real life and not a movie or a TV show. So I don't end up something like Synthetic Man.
Do you read? Not really, I'll be honest, no. I have a very low attention span. I've thought about it.
I've thought about it. I've thought about reading. I've thought about reading like it's rock climbing.
Much easier to say woke bad and make money off being a reactionary little crybaby and do 20 videos on one show I claim to hate, covering every little tweet and article. So yeah, fuck Disney. I mean, fuck these grifters, fake outrage. Chuds and the chud flake audience that only seeks to be pandered to. And also fuck Disney. But at this point, if a show, game interests me, I'll engage and judge the quality for myself. If I want to talk such things, it's going to be in the form of commentary on the artistry that elevates or sinks the work. If I want to discuss these things further, it's going to be with friends and not some anonymous chat room. If it's going to involve watching online critics, it'll be ones making me aware of things I may never have considered or heard of otherwise. And I don't take it personal in regards to people who are able to take a critical eye towards the themes, ideas, and tropes found in media in relation to social issues and human experiences. That gives us something to actually think about. In other words, lighten the fuck up. It's only entertainment at the end of the day.
The greatest sin a lot of these chudflake commentators make is just how fucking boring they are. Have you ever tried watching any of their videos? The quarterings or the neurotics out there? It's like watching flies fuck. There's no personality behind them. All they do is just pander to some fan perceived perspective they have on a piece of popular media or an actor or video game company. And for the last decade, it seems it's all just been reduced to how many minorities are in a certain property. Somehow, looking beyond different people outside of a white, cis, straight male, that's somehow bad and takes away from the story, whatever the fuck that is. And it's to the point where they don't even give a shit about actually engaging with the media they supposedly care about. Remember how everyone was supposedly angry at the new Silent Hill 2 remake because the rape victim wasn't sexy enough for them? And I always love this perceived idea of beauty, which beauty standards do change over time. Look beyond, I don't know, 100 years or so, and people were in powdered wigs and wearing high heels as a man. Plump women were considered sexy. So when it comes to standards and appearance, a guy can look like he just crawled out of a fucking sewer and took a shit bath. That's fine. But a woman looking anything other than a inhuman supermodel is somehow an agenda. It's somehow degenerating our society, depending on who you talk to. And this is something we're supposed to give a shit about, that we're supposed to care about. When, if you go outside your little online bubbles, your Twitters, YouTubes, whatever, most people don't really give a shit. You talk to anyone else outside of the fucking internet, most people aren't even aware this sort of discourse is even fucking going on. I got some extra time, maybe I'll do some videos diving into some movies and video games of the past and applying their stupid logic to it, turning it on its head, because overall it's just fucking pathetic. And I love to mock the shit out of it. But those are just my thoughts. Got any of your own?
Subscribe to the damn channel and share it around. I got a store for art and other creations of mine. Patreon to get some extra perks while helping me feed myself. Paws Off gaming channel with a talking weasel. And Weird Source for cringe-free shit you love.